What is going on? It is Fight Season MMA, and today I want to make a video for my official predictions for the UFC Paris event this weekend on Saturday, September 28th, I believe it is, in a massive fight between Renato Moicano, Benoit St-Denis in the main event in that lightweight bout. The number 11th ranked Renato Moicano going against the number 12 ranked Benoit St-Denis. In the co-main event, we have the number 4 ranked middleweight NImovov going against, I think, the 6th ranked or 5th ranked or 7th ranked Brendan Allen, who is a great grappler. He's from America and he trains with Killcliff FC, and he is one of the best middleweights currently in the organization. There's some other good fights on this card. William Gomis is fighting. Morgan Charriere is fighting in this card. So we'll kind of break down some of these different fighters and who I feel like my official predictions and my bets would be. But first off, if you guys enjoy the UFC content, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help the channel grow. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified when UFC content releases. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video talking about the UFC Paris event. First off, the first fight on the main card is Ziam versus Frevola, and I think that this is going to be a great fight. I know Ziam has had some great wins in his past, and Frevola, I believe, is coming off a loss to Benoit St-Denis in his last one at UFC 295. He could have fought prior to then, but I'm not 100% sure. But I do have Frevola getting back on the win train in these fight event at UFC Paris. I think that Frevola is still a great fighter inside this organization. I think he's one of those kind of veterans who is a very good fighter and will be there for a very long time. He's kind of like that Drew Dober also in that lightweight division. Those are some two incredibly tough individuals, and I do think that Frevola is going to be able to go out there and get this win over Ziam at UFC Paris this weekend, and I do think it's going to be a very close bout. I'm going to say Frevola by decision, but I do think that this is not a fight to bet on whatsoever, considering that the odds are very close, and I don't think that picking one or the other is going to be a very definitive win where there's no really analysis on it. It's just a very close fight. So the next fight on the main card, we got Morgan Charriere versus Gabriel Miranda, and I do have Charriere getting the TKO inside 2 rounds in this fight. I think he's going to be too much of just an all-around threat, especially since he's fighting in his home country of France. I do think that he's going to go out there and put on a spectacular performance. I know Charriere lost his last fight, which was a very close bout. I don't know exactly who it was against, but all I know is it did win fight of the night in a very, very, very close loss for Morgan Charriere. So I think that he's eager to get back into this fight. I know that he took this fight on short notice, which is something that is going to be very kind of good for him to getting into there, to get that bad taste out of his mouth, to fight in his hometown of Paris. I know he fought on the Paris card last year, and he got a win ultimately then, and I do think that Morgan Charriere is going to be able to get a win over Gabriel Miranda this weekend. Next up, we got Kevin Jousset versus Bryan Battle, and I do got Bryan Battle winning this bout. I know Jousset is going to be the France man. He's going to be the big person in the building, kind of, representing the France home country, but I do think that Bryan Battle is an amazing fighter. He fought Andre Lusa last fight, and he was absolutely dominating in that one. And then there was, I think it was some sort of stoppage. It might have been an eye coke. It might have been a kick down below the belt, but Bryan Battle, ultimately, that result resulted in a tie or a no contest between these two individuals, and they kind of were going back at it after the fight, and Battle got really mad after this fight, considering that he was beating him so much, and he was talking so much crap after losing that fight. But I do think that Battle's going to go in there and get a very dominant win. I do think that he is going to ultimately get this win, possibly in round, I'm going to say a decision for Bryan Battle. I think he's going to ultimately be able to outlast Jousset and ultimately get that win at UFC Paris. In the featured bout of UFC Paris, we got William Gomis versus Anderson Brito, and I do got Anderson Brito winning this bout. I think that he is just a more well-rounded fighter. I know the odds are definitely in his favor. He's a -305 favorite over Gomis, who's a +245 underdog, and I do think that he is going to ultimately go in there and get a first or second round finish. I think that his kind of all-around nature, especially since he's on a massive win streak with finishes throughout all of them. I do think that really it's going to be a big one-sided fight for Brito, and I do think that he's going to be the hometown hero of William Gomis this weekend at UFC Paris. In the UFC Paris co-main event, we have a 3-round bout between the number 4 ranked NImovov versus the number 8 ranked Brendan Allen. And I really do think that Brendan Allen is going to go in there and get the finish, and I will tell you why. I think Brendan Allen is a great stand-up fighter. Now, he's not going to be as good as someone like NImovov, but I do think that he's going to be able to get the fight to the ground. And in Allen's last couple of bouts, especially that bout with Paul Craig. Paul Craig is an amazing grappler, and yes, he might not be the best person off of his back when it comes in turn to defending, but he was defending Paul Craig's offensive wrestling off of his back incredibly well, ultimately getting the rear naked choke. And he had a very hard bout with Chris Curtis and his last bout in April of 2024. And I do think NImovov is a great jiu-jitsu fighter, but I do think that Allen is going to be able to go in there and show him that there's kind of levels in this game, talking about his different grappling style, of how good he is to kind of switch up everything and be able to just genuinely show everyone that Brendan Allen is one of the best middleweights currently inside the organization. I think that Brendan Allen is one of the biggest underdogs inside the UFC right now. I think that he is a true contender and dark horse in that middleweight division, and I do think that NImovov is a great fighter as well. I could 100% see this fight going either way. This is a fight that I would absolutely not bet on, and truly, I do think that Brendan Allen will be able to eke out a decision win over someone like NImovov. I think Allen's going to be able to control the bout a little bit more, and I think he's going to ultimately win in kind of overall control time against NImovov. In the main event, we got Mr. Renato Moicano versus Benoit St-Denis. And this is an amazing fight. As we all know, Benoit has so much pressure going forward. He is such a reckless fighter inside the UFC octagon, and that is something that we love every single time that he steps in. And that is something that makes Benoit St-Denis truly one of the most special fighters inside the UFC organization currently. But Renato Moicano, not to be mistaken, was getting beat by Jalen Turner, but he showed amazing resilience to ultimately get that finish in the first round. And he was the first fighter to finish Jalen Turner in the past 2 or 6 years, and that is such a massive accomplishment for someone like Renato Moicano. So who do I ultimately think is going to win this fight between Benoit, who is kind of the young surging contender, fought Dustin Poirier in his last fight, or Renato Moicano fighting and beating Jalen Turner at UFC 300? Now, more likely than not, I think that this is going to be a lot closer fight than the odds make it. The odds have it as a Benoit St-Denis minus 285 favorite, and then Renato Moicano as a plus 230. But I do think that Benoit St-Denis is going to get the win, and I'm going to tell you why. I think that the grappling defense and the grappling offense of Benoit is going to cancel out Renato Moicano's grappling, and I do think that it is going to be a striking bout between these two individuals. Now, Renato is a good striker. I'm not saying he's not, but I do think that Benoit has more power. I do think that in that Dustin Poirier fight, he was genuinely dealing with a staph infection. So now he is going to be able to be at full speed, considering that he's not going to be dealing with that infection. And I do think that he is going to be able to go in there and finish Renato Moicano pretty quickly in this fight. Now, I do think that it is going to be a hard round fight, and I do think it's going to be incredibly excited. I'm going to say that Benoit gets a third round finish over Moicano, but I could 100% see Moicano winning this bout as well. Moicano is one of those individuals who truly is so amazing as a grappler inside the UFC, and he has so many different skills and so much pressure, beating the likes of Drew Dober and Jalen Turner, those last names that he's beaten. And truly, that Jalen Turner fight, even though he got knocked down in that first round, he was able to show the resilience to come back and ultimately get that win. I do think that this fight is something that you should not bet on. I do think that this is just my opinion, that I think that the grappling of these two individuals is going to cancel out, considering that Benoit St-Denis is kind of an underrated wrestler / grappler himself. And truly, I think that he's going to be able to go in there and finish someone like Renato Moicano with the strikes on the feet. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please let me know what you think down below in the comment section about this fight night at UFC Paris. Renato Moicano versus Benoit St-Denis is a great main event. This is going to be such a bloody fight between these two individuals, and we all know that Renato Moicano wants his money, wants to get that finish and ultimately get the bonus, as well Benoit St-Denis is someone who goes forward and doesn't have a boring fight in store. And the co-main event, I think, is going to be the most underrated fight of the night. NImovov versus Brendan Allen only has star power and tune. These are some of the most underrated middleweights currently. You might not know who NImovov is, you might not know who Brendan Allen is, but these two individuals are so good in probably the future of the UFC middleweight division, in my opinion. Gomis versus Joe Anderson's a good fight. Brian Battle's on the card. Morgan Charriere, Matt Frevola, who's always exciting. UFC Paris has the absolute perfect makeup for an absolutely amazing fight night card where everyone is going to have exciting, fun fights. If you guys enjoy the UFC content, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help support the channel. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified with the most recent UFC content that drops. But without further ado, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.